Θα περάσουμε στην τελευταία παρουσίαση της πρώτης απογευματινής συνεδρίας. And I would like to ask Massimiliano SECCI, collaborator of the Mare Lab laboratory that is being directed by our colleague Stella Demesticha. Massimiliano will speak to us about a living shipwreck, a composite study of scrambling devices, three-dimensional modeling and biological analysis for the understanding of site formation processes in archaeological shipwreck sites.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Καλησπέρα σας. And this is basically where my break stops. Sorry. Okay. So this project, A Living Shipwreck, has been funded by the University of Cyprus internal postdoctoral fundings for 2018 and 2019. It's in its embryonic phase. We're still gathering data, and processing and analyzing. So I will present basically on the approach, the theoretical and methodological stances of the project. I don't have a result as yet. So A Living Shipwreck bases on some theoretical assumptions, which are called wreck site formation processes, and I will explain further this concept, and specifically on natural formation processes, and even more specific on scrambling devices. And I will deepen this concept in a little bit. But it also bases on multidisciplinary methodology, where three-dimensional modeling and data acquisition, obviously archaeological analysis, and biological analysis all come together to give what we call a 4D understanding of these site formation processes. Sorry? There we are. So site formation processes, most of you might be acquainted with the concept, was first developed by Michael Schiffer in his doctoral thesis in 1973. Dr. Schiffer theorized that the archaeological record conveys information on two basic contexts. The systemic context, which is the context in which the archaeological artifacts or site have developed their active life. And then so it's all, and conveys information on cultural, religious beliefs, information on the area of acquisition of material, and so on and so forth. But the archaeological record also conveys information on the archaeological context, which is the context of the artifact once it has been, for different reasons, lost, discarded, or abandoned for whatever reason. So this is the two contexts that Michael Schiffer theorized. Within these two major contexts, Schiffer also recognizes that there are a series of processes or transforms that affect the archaeological record, and this can be either natural or cultural, so based on natural forces or on cultural anthropic forces. Not a long time after this theory was developed, Keith McElroy make it his own in 1978 in his book Maritime Archaeology. He further expanded and adapted the theory of site formation processes to maritime archaeological contexts, specifically shipwrecks. He accepted or expanded on the natural and cultural transforms, identifying in shipwreck site what he calls extracting filters. Are those filtered actions, processes that take out of the archaeological context artifacts or any other facts, archaeological facts. And this can be either culturally based or naturally, or culturally or naturally based. He also recognized scrambling, what he calls scrambling devices, and these are mostly natural transforms and are the effects of the type of seafloor or the composition of the seafloor. If it is a rocky seafloor or a sandy seafloor, the preservation of the archaeology is different, or a shipwreck is different. Waves and currents have an effective transformation on the shipwreck site. Sediment type, the acidic or neutral content of the sediment, the biochemical property of the water and of the sediment, and also marine flora and fauna. I'm very familiar with this. All these theoretical ideas, concepts, will be applied in this project on the Mazotò shipwreck. You had Dr. Stella Domestica, who spoke about the shipwreck, the archaeology of the shipwreck this morning. I will focus specifically on the bow area because it has been the one that has been almost fully excavated, but where a matrix is already in place. And in this context, I will leave you to this video, and I will.
The biochemical composition of the sediment play a role in the preservation or decay of the artifacts, particularly organic materials. The buried, semi-buried, or exposed artifacts bear evidence of the site formation processes. Theoretically, as shown in the image below, the exposed amphorae will have traces of marine concretions. Conversely, the semi-buried will have traces only in the exposed portion, while the buried amphorae would not have any concretion. Obviously, on the basis of the effects of waves and currents on the sediments that we have described above, this is not a static or a monodirectional process. It is in fact often a dynamic process where exposure and burial alternate, leaving evident traces on the artifacts.
This was a storytelling videos which was developed by the University of Sarajevo under the archaeological supervision of Marelab, of the Marelab team, in the frame of the Mariculture project, and it will be part of the Mazotò shipwreck dry visit. That will be one of the deliverables of the project. And as this video, the other videos that are on the presentation come from the same package. Okay, so the amphoras have evidence or traces of their life on the seafloor. Actions of the sediment changes, the actions of wave and currents, leave traces on the amphoras. In what way? Here I have drawn on one example of the three-dimensionally recorded amphora the area that separates the buried portion of the amphora with the exposed. So buried is within the sediment, and exposed is in the water column. But between these two areas, so the buried, we call the buried the one that is in an anoxic environment, so no life is able to thrive. But there is this little area that is within the two red line that is an area where some organisms still thrive, and it's called benthic, basically from the buried interface up to the water column is called benthic zone, where marine organism live thrive. And this, as we will see in few photos, in few slides from now, they leave traces on the amphora. And these traces tells the story of the sediment dynamics. From the methodological point of view, the idea is to 3D record with photogrammetry the amphora, retrieve these marks, initially these interface marks, and build a model of the site based on these marks. And I would like you to focus on this mark right here. Sorry, I can't see. Yes, on this mark right here and on this mark right here for a second. So these are the bow area of a Mazotos shipwreck seen from the port side, from the left side. And according to the mark, we will recreate the sediment locations along the bow area in order to understand if the marks actually match our understanding of the incrustation. But here we already have, so the line defines interface between water column and sediment, but here we have similar type of incrustation on the buried part and on the exposed part of the amphora. So just using the interface mark, it could be tricky to fully understand the exposure and burial dynamics of this site. For this reason, biological analysis or marine biological analysis enter into place. So Dr. Carlos Jimenez from the Enalia Physis is analyzing the Mazotos amphora, trying to understand, gather information on the type of marine organism and incrustating communities that are affecting each individual amphora from the bow area, and what these biological informations on the community can tell us in order to characterize, or how they can participate in the characterization of the burials events. So all these once we created the first understanding of the sediment disposition along the site, the biological information will allow us to further detail the sediment disposition and eventually understand the idiosyncrasies between the marks on the amphoras. Understand that was an effect of successive events of burial and exposure, or it was a result of a dislocation of finds, or again it was an effect of cultural transform possibly by people actually dislocating or taking amphoras from the site, pillaging amphoras. So this is what we want to understand on the site, this dynamic of exposure and burial, dislocation of finds, and further define the environmental characteristics of the site that could help to inform, further inform the excavation. And σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ.